It's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Worldwide TV Network, WomanOnTV.tv, IT247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, and now iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, Comcast, and a host of more. And we're live at the Mike House Studios for Artists by Artists. So this is a movie review show, and I had to get the gang back together because at one point we all used to do junkets. And for those people who don't know what junkets are, that means we used to interview everybody in the world. So we got to start with my good friend, Mike Szymanski. Mike, who are you? Where are you coming from? What did you used to do? That's the question.
I used to work. That was one of the things. No, yeah, I did interviews for Entertainment Weekly and Us Magazine way back, and Zap to It, and a whole bunch of other places.
Forgot about Zap to It. Yeah, Tribune. Yeah.
And and E, that's right, for E.
And USA Today, one-on-ones.
Oh, yeah.
See? We'll have to remind everybody what we used to do.
Yeah, it's been, 30 years, so over 30 years.
Michael, it's been a long time since I've seen you.
Yeah, it's been like a year, I think.
I think it's longer than that. Tell everybody who you are.
Michael Dequinaof. I'm the sole writer, publisher of themoviereport.com, which turned 25 years old as of November 2nd.
Yeah, wow.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Did you think he was going to go that long?
Actually, no. It was something that I was supposed to do for the time being until I got a quote-unquote legit print job. And this was back when no one knew what internet was. I certainly didn't know what internet was. It was just something to do, to keep my relationships with studios going at the time.
Exactly.
Because like back in high school, I was already getting stuff from them. So I was, trying to keep that up while I, bid my time for a while. But then, time being became time being for 25 years and counting.
That's great.
And Rich, talk about where you came from, because everybody in here has got a history of not one thing, but working together, but also they came from someplace else where people don't even realize. You came from the music business, didn't you? Talk about that, because all of a sudden, his face starts lighting up all of a sudden. It's memories. People don't realize what we used to do at one point. Talk about what you used to do and what you're doing now.
I actually had an independent record label. And long story short, I got into doing articles through the record companies. And I used to do strictly, I was producing a couple of artists, and then I started doing interviews for them. So the record company said, "Whoa, you write too?" And so I started doing interviews for the record labels for several magazines, hip-hop magazines, stuff like that. And one particular magazine, Showcase magazine in the Bay Area, the editor said, "Well, you're in Hollywood. Do you do actors?" And at the time, I didn't. But I told her, "Oh, of course I do." And then that's what started me doing the junkets and stuff. Ava DuVernay was the one that brought me in.
Now, so we all go back to when Ava was a publicist. She was a very good publicist. And I'm kicking myself because I don't have her phone number right now. Because I used to just go to her office all the time and just say hi. And then she had Irving Durr. Remember Irving?
Irving.
Right.
These are people that we deal with. So everybody who Ava DuVernay is now, obviously. But back in the day, she was a publicist. And she had some really good films. And for me, it was like I didn't have to beg to get in to see a film to do an interview with someone. She's like, "Sure, Brian, come on in." She was very nice, very gracious. She's always been this way, and my hat goes off to her on what she's accomplished, because I didn't see that coming. Did you see it coming?
I did not see that coming, but, I was always of the opinion that whatever she wanted to do, she would do.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know how far back each of our relationships with Ava go, because, most people know her as a publicist from her own company.
Right.
But I knew her when she was working for a different company before that.
Interesting.
And I still have those emails.
Wow. Do you really?
Yes, I do. I'm a horrible pack rat when it comes to emails. But so back in 97 or so, when she was working for a different firm, that was when I got my first contact with her. And then, of course, being on that list, and then, carrying over to when she started her own agency and whatnot, and then from there.
So
Michael?
my big surprise is that I worked at Entertainment Weekly with Ryan Murphy
Oh, yeah.
when we were both just covering junkets and I mean we were covering red carpets, and I never saw that coming, man.
That's true. But it was one of those things where this is, for me, like I said, personally, it's been a great year for movie reviews and more with all the stuff that we've done. But we've also lost a lot of people. I think when I think of you first, and then I think of John, favorite memory of him.
John, whoa.
John who?
John Singleton.
Oh.
Because you kind of had a nice relationship with him, a special relationship with him. in a way.
Yeah. I mean, it was something I never, broadcast, but, after it, became a little more common knowledge. But I don't know. I think if there's anything that really stands especially in my mind is when he would join me for press screenings, whenever he wanted to see something in particular. And watching Star Wars movies with him, the prequels, was something that is very, very, something I really treasure because, like, I already...
You watched Star Wars with John Singleton?
I saw, I didn't actually, this is a dumb story because it's like, I remember, and this completely dates me as far as my, I already mentioned 25 years, but like as far as my internet history goes. I just remember like the week that Phantom Menace was coming out in '99, and I get a ping on AOL Instant Messenger from John asking me if I had seen Phantom Menace already, and I said, I actually have, and he was so pissed off because he was like, man, why didn't you tell me, you had that screening? And so ever since that moment, he made me promise to whenever I got the invite to any Star Wars film, that I would let him know, and he would get first dibs. So we ended up going to Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and Force Awakens, and he had to miss Last Jedi, and then Solo. He did come for Solo,
Wow.
and he had to miss Rogue One as well.
Very
So
cool.
Why did he have to miss it?
for Last Jedi and Rogue One, I believe he was working on Snowfall. I mean,
yeah.
he couldn't get out of it. I mean, he's someone who would get out of it if he could, because I remember, especially for Revenge of the Sith, he was in post on Four Brothers at the time.
Yeah.
And I asked him if you can't make it. It was like a noon screening in Westwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if you can't make it out, it's fine. He's like, no, I will leave the Paramount lot and go to Westwood for Revenge of the Sith. And he did.
Wow.
So I think of Tiffany Haddish. So your relationship, Rich, certain people that you come up with, this is the time to brag about yourselves of these people that you have, because Mike will tell you, all of us develop certain relationships with certain people, and we never really talked about it or anything, but now, you're here today, you may be gone tomorrow, unfortunately. You were there before she was huge. Talk about how you hit it off.
Well, I had a studio in Burbank for about 2 years, and I did photo shoots. I was one of the few people that did interviews and photo shoots. Mm-hmm. So I did them both. And it was kind of like a junket. I would have food, liquor, anything else that they wanted. And so a lot of people came through, Megan Good, Rolanda Brooks. I mean, a lot of people came through. And that's how I met a lot of them, I knew their publicists, and then they would, because I did a lot of stuff without press junkets.
Right.
I mean, if a actor had a project or something, and they knew at that time, I had a lot of newspapers, probably about 40 of them, and more than a third, maybe more than that, died.
Yeah.
I mean, print just, they were just gone. They just started dropping. Like after 2010, they just started dropping.
Yeah. Mike, you remember when you used to do a lot of one-on-ones back in the day for stuff, whether it was for USA Today or even, I think you were still doing some maybe for Zap To It, maybe?
Sure, yeah.
Favorite memories of a couple people? Because you developed some great, relationships also.
Well, yeah, you were talking about friendships. I mean, she's a big name in my book, but one of the closest friends I have is Sally Kirkland, who she does during the pandemic, she has done this half-hour kind of spiritual meditation workshop through her Facebook page, and she gets people from all over the world tuning in from 4 to 4:30. Unfortunately, I missed it today, but I usually am on there almost every single day. And she does some chanting, and then she reads inspirational quotes. And I don't think people know that she's a reverend too, and this MSIA, it's a non-denominational thing, but it's a very spiritual kind of motivational thing that I do every day with her, and she's kind of helped me out through the pandemic too during dark times. But we became friends when I was interviewing her when she was playing Marilyn Monroe in an obscure movie where she was an aging Marilyn Monroe who was stuck on an island with an aging Elvis.
Do you have the title of that?
I'm trying to remember it. I knew you were going to ask that, but I can't remember it, and I don't think I ever even saw it, actually. It's a very obscure movie.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I met RuPaul, I think it was 96, 98, at Mike's place at a Halloween party. And I got this classic photo of me sitting in it. I'm sitting in a chair, he's sitting in a chair, and then my friend Tina is standing above him. And I just remember that photo. I'm like, but look where he is now. And it's interesting to see where everybody is started to going, because at one point we used to all be in certain rooms. Sometimes, I don't know if we were all in one room together. It might have been a rarity doing interviews with anybody, but it was always fun. I didn't mind being in rooms with people from print or online or whatever. I liked you guys. I wanted to know who you guys were.
Yeah, but you broadcast people didn't want us print people in because we interrupted.
They didn't want me in there half the time. You know, you couldn't pick up water, and you couldn't pour it.
You couldn't
had to
laugh.
turn the air conditioning off.
Couldn't laugh.
You know,
No
they really
reaction.
got upset when I started bringing my tripod in and capturing stuff. But here's the thing: had I not got those interviews, I wouldn't have gotten some of those great interviews.
Yeah.
Oh, I got some great interviews to people. You know who I'm not even gonna say what her name was, but you know we had fun being, and those days are gone, and they're not coming back, and that's the unfortunate thing. So now we can tell those stories. Someone else who passed away this year, unfortunately, I think of Finding Forrester was the last interview that I did with him, Sean Connery. Now, imagine this. I could have taken myself out the room because I wasn't supposed to be in a room. These are the days where you're supposed to have permission from people. And I'll never forget, that day was Sandra Bullock. We had Russell Crowe. It was called a movie called Proof of Life. We had Finding Forrester. We had Sandy Bullock for Miss Congeniality 2. I'll never forget it, just one after another, celebrities coming in. And this was just in the radio room. And Russell Crowe didn't want to leave. The publicist had to go get Sandy Bullock. She goes, Russell, I love you, but I got a plane to catch to New York, and that's the only reason why Russell got up and walked out, because he loved us in the radio room. And it's interesting because I think of him playing, was it Rupert Murdoch on FX for,
He was playing Ailes, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's all right.
Roger Ailes.
Ailes, which I thought he did a great job.
And Crow could be a real ass during interviews. I mean,
Well, either he liked you or he didn't, but he liked us radio because of us, he ended up winning Gladiator. That's why he liked us.
Oh.
He would even shut the door, and sometimes he would just light up and smoke. You know, but he didn't like print, he didn't like TV, he didn't like online people, but he liked us radio people because we brought it home for him for Gladiator. Favorite interviews you can think of doing junkets for you that stood out, because a lot of these people who were your friends before that, but it's hard to see them. So I see a lot of your photos coming up. I'm like, good for Rich. I didn't know he did that, because we would just all meet and we never got a chance to talk to each other half the time. We're busy running around from screening room or doing other junkets, or sometimes we weren't invited, and sometimes we'd be in separate rooms. You're smiling.
I think my most favorite would probably be Angelica Houston.
Oh, yes.
She was a sweetheart.
she's beautiful. Yeah.
She was a sweetheart. We were laughing and just acting crazy. And the publicist had to look in there and see what's going on in there. You guys having too much fun. And I love that woman to this day. She was just real. She told me some stories about the Houston family all the way back to her grandfather and her dad and the whole 9 yards. And then the second one I can remember was, what's the Cosby girl?
Oh, last name Kravitz? You got married to Lenny Kravitz?
Yeah.
Lisa
Oh, yeah.
Bonet. Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, Lisa Bonet. This was back in the days when she was supposed to be acting weird.
Yeah.
And
She
went up-
was.
Well, that's one of the reasons she and I got along, because I didn't agree with that. One thing is she went on the Johnny Carson show barefooted. The press just tried to have a baby about that. And so when I did a one-on-one with her, and when I walked into the suite, she was sitting on this couch all balled up, as if to say, I dare you to come over here and try to make me come out of this ball. And I love when they do stuff like that, because I know how to get to them. So the first thing I did was complimented her hair, because she had all of this hair that just went everywhere. And then I brought up the subject about being barefooted. I said, that's the most natural way you can be.
Good on you. Smart move.
Yeah, it's natural. We weren't really supposed to have shoes. I mean, when you go back in evolution and stuff, we had pads under our feet like the dogs do. And so when I started talking like that, she was like, well, damn, this guy's cool. So she came out of her ball, and we had a good time. So those are the two that stood out. There were many more of them, but...
You just reminded me. So Angelica Houston, I have this photo, this video of her actually putting makeup on. I think it was the ABC press day. And she goes, oh, there's cameras in here? This is when I was sneaking my little cameras in. You guys remember? And all of a sudden, she goes, hold on. So she starts putting makeup on. And I got the most views of, this is Angelica putting her makeup on for us. And she's talking, do I look okay? I'm like, yeah, you look great. And I'm like thinking, I'm the only one who's got this. And it was great. And then you just reminded me of Brandy. I did a 10-minute interview with Brandy. And she was not in a good mood. And then I just knew, because her mom was always there. Remember when her mom was following her?
Yes, the
her mom was
sergeant.
always in there. And then I said, oh, okay, I'm hearing not so good stories on this. Let me go into the room. And I complimented her hair because her hair looked good. And all of a sudden, she just lighted up. And I did a 10-minute thing for BET, which was classic grading. I was the only one to get that at that point. And I was covering for another friend at that point. And it was fun. And it was for, I think what you did last summer. It was that.
I still know what you
Yeah,
did
it was
last
that
summer.
one. Yeah.
I have a beautiful private story about Angelica too, because I had interviewed her all the way back to Pritzi's Honor and Adam's Family, everything. But I was at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and I had just bought a plot not too far from her dad, John Huston, and it was across the way. And I actually saw her, and she was kind of looking for it. She couldn't find it, and I was like, it's over here, it's underneath the hibiscus. The hibiscuses have overgrown. She's like, oh, thank you for telling me. And I said, I'm Mike, I've interviewed you a number of times for different junkets and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, how cool, that's great. And I said, the person, one of the people I would have loved to have interviewed if I ever had a chance would have been your dad. And she said, oh, thank you for telling me that. So. And she just, had her private moment, but she was visiting her dad. I guess I don't know if it was an anniversary or something or birthday, but it was kind of sweet.
Wow, I can't remember her name. They called her the queen of the indie films. What was her name? And
Which queen of the indie
Oh,
films?
you mean Vampira? Or?
no.
Oh, are you talking about like Parker Posey?
Yes,
Okay.
Parker Posey.
Parker Posey,
You just reminded me of Parker Posey doodling. And in the radio roundtable run was funny because I always got along with her, and she was fine with me. But it's one of those things that my therapist says, and she's doodling, and we're looking at each other in the radio room, going, "What is she doodling?" First of all, Now remember, this is the day of eBay. When someone drank a thing of water, you're like, "Oh, we could sell that water if we wanted to on eBay."
Yeah.
But we're like, this could be interesting. But I had the best conversation with her for a small little independent film, and it was just one of those things where you would just sit with them because you're not sure anybody's going to see this film, so you're connecting with them, and it was special. Turns out, but you never know the next time you saw them if they remembered you or not. I had that same issue with man, what was her name? She died, and guy left her a lot of money. She did the reality show.
Anna Smith?
Nicole, yes. She tried to attack me behind a curtain. I ended up getting an interview, 45-minute interview with just me and her at. It was at the VSDA convention when the video
Yeah.
used to have that. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be talking to her. And I'm like, I got a one-on-one with her because our manager gave me that. And I got my small little tape recorder. And all of a sudden, I look up there because it was just me and her. And there was like 40 people in the audience. I don't know if they could hear us because it was just she and I. And I'm like, I'm counting these people as she's talking. I'm like, where did these people come from? Because I was such in the zone. And I just remember we walked off, and she's trying to attack me behind a curtain and trying to kiss me. And then someone took photos of this. I'm like, they're not going to believe Anna Nicole Smith tried to kiss me and attack me. And I got this look of horror on my face because I'm like, what if I kissed her back? I'll never be able to talk to her ever again. And that was my whole thing. And I was like, I got the interview. No one else got it. It's 45 minutes. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she tried to attack me. I never.
Wasn't she always drunk, though? I mean,
Well, this goes into the next story because 3 weeks later, literally 3 weeks later, she comes in. Remember, she was the Queen of Barbados, or Miss Barbados from one of the islands. She had the sash on, Planet Hollywood, that she went to. And I go, hey, Anna Nicole. She goes, hi, how you doing? And she walks right by. I'm like, did that just happen? And that was the first time that ever happened. I'm like, oh, they don't remember most of the time. And that you just reminded me of that. And I'm like,
well, Sharon Stone felt me up on a staircase once.
really?
Well,
What movie was it?
it was a party. It was a party at the academy, and it was like that staircase where you go down. And she grabbed my arm and she said, "Come down with me." And she's like, "Hold my." And it's like, whoa.
That just reminds me of Angie Harmon.
Oh yeah.
I was doing a TV interview with her, and she had this black brace on, like her right hand. And I'm sitting down, it's if you've ever done TV interviews, you walk down, and they're in the room, and we get mic'd up. She goes, oh, by the way, I injured my hand. I was masturbating. And I think she was expected to get a rise out of me. I'm like, you have no idea what world I'm in. I was like thinking, and she was shocked that I didn't respond. And I was like, I wanted to say, well, that's nice. So you should hang out with me for a little bit. That just reminded me of that. And I got a picture. She's got a black cast on, and she's like hugging me in the chair, and I'm just taking the photo. Movies. What have you said you went to go see Tenet. You actually went to a movie theater.
Yes,
Talk about that experience.
It was, it was very strategic in my mind as far as, because it was the first week that Orange County opened, because people around the nation and the world, LA County has been closed solid as far as movie theaters are concerned since March. And Orange County isn't far. I wanted to kind of get out of the house, and I did want to see Tenet. That really was the only way, because I had already asked Warner Brothers if they were going to account for the lack of Los Angeles coverage as far as the release date. So I went to a theater in Orange, California. And also part of my strategic planning was I knew that the first week everybody would be on their toes. It's like they weren't going to start slacking off after a while. They were going to be extra super careful as far as at least giving the appearance of being on the ball. And they were on the ball. It was actually not very, not surprisingly, not very...
How many people were in the theater?
For Tenet, I would want to say maybe 20 at most
Okay.
in their large auditorium.
Right.
But the way this particular theater had it, they already had a reserved seating process. But the way they had it programmed in their seating reservation system, where whatever block you needed for however many seats were in your party, then once you put that in, then they automatically blocked off 3 in each direction. So it was very dynamic as far as the way the distancing was arranged. But everything was, I saw people like walking down, employees walking down the halls with, their little sort of, their brooms, their dustpans, and their little, sort of like a tool belt of cleaning supplies. And the one thing that really struck me, though, because, that movie is kind of on the longish side, is, I go into the restroom beforehand, and it was pristine, like everything wiped down, not even a splash from water. And I know that, people were there in the theater, because, this is Tenet. I mean, so, people, this was the one thing that people were going to. And when I came back out, it was still, like, 'cause I know I splashed a little as far as the sink goes. I went to the same restroom right after, and it was, dry, everything wiped down. And I noticed also when, and I'm one of those people who stays during the end credits. And, most people get up, when the crawl starts. And I'm sitting there, watching the credits, and then people filing out. And there were people like on the side watching us. So as soon as someone left, they immediately went to the seat and started scrubbing the area because there were leather seats and whatnot. But I was, of course, the last person there because I was the one person waiting, and it just made me feel really uncomfortable because they were watching me. Just like, is this guy going to leave yet so he can wash this chair?
So how was the movie?
The movie was good.
Good.
But this is the thing I always say.
That's not what I heard. All right, give your
Well,
view.
that's why I'm asking him,
Well,
because I want to hear what he.
Well,
'cause
I
believe-
think it's fine. I mean, it's a disappointment considering hype, and his filmography. I think that even if the marketplace were normal, so to speak, it would have underachieved no matter what. I think it was the wrong.
So it wouldn't have been the blockbuster they expected.
It would, obviously, get its huge opening, but I don't think that it was, it was a really strange choice to be the movie that they pinned the hopes of, rescuing the exhibition industry with. I mean, on paper, it seems like it would be a good bet, but actually seeing the film, it's like, this wasn't going to do, like in a normal marketplace, this would be one of those, in those postmortems for the summer season, it's like, it did well, but
Yeah.
it didn't live up to,
Probably wasn't like
Wonder
Woman
Inception
or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like if we're going to use a non-franchise, comparison of a Nolan film, it would be like Inception. Would probably be
yeah.
and similar high concept in what appears to be a very blockbuster packaging, but it was fine. It was one of those things where they made a choice that I thought that does in theory work, but also is to its disadvantage, which is really dropping you in, neck deep from the get-go, not knowing what the hell's going on, just like the John David Washington character is. Like, he doesn't know really what's going on. I mean, and it's great to put you in, his perspective, especially since his character doesn't have a name. And, but at the same time, you're like, well, what the hell's going on? like it's one of those things where it's like once later on when you start to get a better handle as far as what exactly is happening, you're like, okay, so that's what happened there. So you're always kind of backtracking while it's still going on. And of course, everyone here and, a number of people are smart moviegoers, but, if you're thinking about, the masses who just want boom, boom, blow up stuff, they'll be like, wait a minute, what exactly is this? I'm lost within 5 minutes, and they don't. And then, of course, once people check out quickly,
Yeah.
it's an uphill battle to try to
I
get
love
back.
time travel movies, but I was looking forward to seeing it someday, I guess, going over.
Well, in December, since they've pretty much, given up the ghost on, LA, New York opening,
Yeah.
which is bizarre that a Nolan blockbuster film will likely never see, the inside of a Los Angeles or New York City movie theater in a first run
Weird.
context.
Weird.
Exactly. Rich, you haven't gone to the theater, but would you go to the theaters?
Not really.
Why?
I don't know. I think they're safe myself, but I just wouldn't go there because of psychological implement. If you think something's germy, it's going to be germy, even though it's not. But we talked on the phone, and theaters are going out.
No.
I mean, AMC only just recently started operating 83% of their theaters, but 14% of them are still dark,
Exactly.
and they are hurting. And the ones that are operating are only operating at 20 to 40%. So they're hurting. I'm looking at Mike. I'm thinking about you may have been there Robin Williams, were you at that junket where everybody
No, I wasn't there.
because we've been to so many of them together.
We're in the same room together.
Yeah.
At least the two of us are
Well-
always in the same room.
Well, everybody lays their microphones, their little.
That's not Robin Williams. That's Jim Carrey.
No, that's Robin Williams. Everybody put their mics and stuff in front of him because, he comes in there and he sits down and he takes all of them and just swashes them all around and then mixes them all up. And everybody's pissed off. And there's one lady, her recorder actually turned off. So she missed the whole interview.
That's right. He did do that one point. But you know what? I was thinking of the Andy Kaufman movie
Oh, yeah.
that Universal did. He came in and did that and did the same thing, and they went flying. Our microphones, I understand. So the radio people, they were not happy. They went flying, and he went.
And the trouble with Robin is that you can never get a straight answer out of him anyway, so it was so
Well, I always
hard to
tell my
do.
Robin Williams story of is I made him cry. I think it was the Night Whisper, or the Night Listener,
Night listener.
and I asked him about his favorite charity, and he was talking about Doctors Without Borders, and he started to tear up, and he goes, "I'm sorry, this is the only time I've ever seen him do that," and he started crying because it was something that was dear to his heart, and I always say the day that he died, he made me cry, because he did. And it was one of those things where you wish we had someone's phone number. We wish we could have reached out to someone. He's the person I wished I could have reached out to.
But getting back to the theater thing, the home theater is so sophisticated now. I have a nephew that got surround sound the whole nine. And so he doesn't need to go anywhere. And now the studios are going to streaming. They're all, in fact, they've been, since March, they've been all plotting on the demise of theater. So they're basically looking at everything going to stream now. So it's going to be interesting. 2021, 2022 it's going to be a whole new day. I mean, the whole thing about the premieres and all of that, I've seen that go down to nothing.
Exactly. Do you miss covering them?
Junkets?
The film festivals, and
It's.
you weren't really doing red carpets so much.
No, I just did not do red carpets.
Yeah.
Red carpets is something that did not interest me because, you never really get anything of use.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least anything substantial rather than the typical promotional sound.
Do you miss doing red carpets?
Yeah, because I love the atmosphere, that carnival atmosphere. And when I started, it would be an average of maybe 100 photographers on that carpet. There was a lot of print people. Back then, they called them the .coms, the folks with the cameras. And over the years, it just started shrinking, and then Getty Image just took everything over. So if you're a photographer, you were just out.
I hated doing red carpets, but the one that I didn't mind doing was always Santa Barbara Film Festival, because Roger Darling he knew how to pick the great films, and everybody did show up, and you got a great chance of talking to them, whether it was Quentin Tarantino or Clint Eastwood or James Cameron for Avatar, and I never took it for granted. I don't take anything for granted because I always had to fight to get in to do a lot of these things. But it was one of those things where I let some of my friends do interviews. And I never forgot. I'm like, I let them talk to Sandra Bullock. I let them talk to James Cameron. And they went back to their class, and the class did not believe them that they talked and did an interview with them. And I had to show them photos. I'm like, yeah, I was there. I invited her. Here's the invite. Mike, do you miss doing some film festivals?
Yeah, I missed Toronto Film Festival. That was my
yeah.
favorite, and I always loved doing that. I did that for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of great movies there and discovered a lot of movies for the first time there, too.
Yeah, that was always great. I remember the movie Very Bad Things, Peter Berg's
Yes.
first out. I just remember drinking with Cameron Diaz. We were having some weird shots, and that was the same thing as Permanent Midnight, the Ben
Yeah.
Stiller film. They were doing that at the same time. And what I had was, Remember Christian Slater? It was
Yeah.
for after Hard Rain, he went to jail or wherever he went.
Yeah.
I was his first interview for
Colin
that.
Farrell took us to a strip club after Phone Booth when we did the interviews for Phone Booth. I think it was it Phone Booth? Yeah. And he said, let's go to the strip club across the street. We'll do the interview there. And I was like, okay.
How long did you stay for?
There or
Yeah,
I at least for a couple of beers. I mean, yeah.
that's funny. The weirdest junket that you ever did, and what was the best swag that you ever got? Remember?
I don't know, but I've been to a lot of sets, television, movie sets. And in fact, I met Whitney Houston the first time she came to LA.
Wow.
And I was managing a rock band at the time. And I was at the Roxy making preparations for my band to play there on that weekend. And she played on a Thursday and a Friday. She was unknown then.
Wow.
And I got there and I heard them rehearsing. And I heard this woman just, oh man, singing her rear off. And so I asked the lady, I said, who the heck is that down there? I mean, her name is Whitney Houston and her cousin is Dionne Warwick. So I said, let me go down here and investigate this. And I'll never will forget, the club was empty. There was nobody in there but the band and some guy. I don't know who he was. And she was singing, and I sat right there in front of the stage. Wow. And since I was the only one in the club, she came over and sung to me, and she sung Saving All My Love for You. I was like, wow.
And she was still singing her heart out just for one person. That was great.
Yeah, because you could hear her voice echoing off the wall, and it was dark.
Wow.
Only the stage was lit. The club was dark. There's nobody in there.
Wow.
And then afterwards, she came to the stage and asked me to help her off the stage, and she sat down with me. And we got to acting crazy and everything, and nobody ever came to me and said, you're not supposed to be in here. They thought she knew me.
Right.
So the band was like, oh, so this was her homies from L.A.
Wow.
Wow.
And to make it weirder, I was in the hotel that night she died.
Oh, wow.
I was there. That was the Clive Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, I do the music thing, too. The Grammys, you know, I remember meeting Taylor Swift at the Grammys the very first time she was there. And she was just like tripping like a little kid in a candy factory, because to her, you know, she had never done that before. So she was like, and after I got through talking to Paul McCartney, oh, it was a trip. Then I go down the hall and run into Taylor Swift. But anyway, we were at the Hilton. I had just done the NAACP Image Awards, had their pre-luncheon, did that, and I did a Tyler Perry junket before that, all in one day. This was the last event. And I used to do the Clive Davis thing every year. And we got to the hotel around 3 o'clock, and they said somebody up there on the 4th floor is in distress or something. And then about half hour later, the paramedics came, and they rushed up there. And then maybe around 4 o'clock, they sealed the whole hotel off. And since all the press was there, it said nobody leave, especially you guys with cameras. Because once they found out it was Whitney, people started wanting to sneak up the steps and stuff, man. There must have been 1 billion cops in that place, and they sealed everything off. They couldn't kick us out because the limos had already started to arrive. You know, people say, well, they should have canceled it. Man, this thing happened like 3 in the afternoon, and by an hour and a half later, the limos had already started to arrive. You couldn't call it off. There's no way you could do that. And that's when the news came down and Whitney was dead. And I remember talking to Chaka Khan. She was totally upset. She said, these blank, blank, blanks down there partying their A's off, and they left the body up there all night. So we down there, at least not me, but they were down there partying, having a ball, and this woman laying up there dead.
Wow.
Oh, it was weird.
Wow.
It was weird. So I thought about, wow, I met her when she first came here, and I was here when she basically died. You know, that's a weird feeling. Never will forget that. And it was just that whole afternoon was just shock for everybody because we were all shocked. But the party went on, and man, it was crazy.
Wow.
I met the billionaire. What's his name? The balloon guy that.
Richard Branson?
Yeah. Oh man, he was a lot of fun.
What's the most fun gift that you remember getting? For me, I remember the Matrix phone. Warner Brothers gave out a Matrix phone, and then airline tickets for the Kevin Spacey film Beyond the Sea.
Oh.
Remember that?
No, I didn't cover either of those. But
Michael, did
Me
you do
either.
that one?
Yeah.
were the airline tickets like open
Yeah,
ended?
you got a free trip.
So it was like a voucher.
You know what I just came out? I've just found in my going through stuff. I don't know if you even remember Sukiyaki Django.
Sukiyaki
yeah.
Western Django.
Yeah, and they gave us these little coffins, and it's big enough for a little dog. And you know, I have an older dog, and I just found it, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll save that for her. But you know, it's about this big, and it's a big white, you know. I got another coffin from Freddy's Dead too. It's a
Oh,
smaller
I remember that
coffin.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my favorite was a griller, George Foreman griller.
Oh yeah, I
The
got
George
that
Foreman
too.
Grill.
What movie was that for?
Eva, leave it to
Deliver
us from Eva. Yeah, you were there,
I
right?
got 3 of
Wow.
those. I remember that.
And they
That-
gave you a whole
was that
grill?
Ava's film?
That
she
was
cover
no,
that?
that was Gabrielle Union.
Well, no, we're talking
No,
about
no,
like,
Ava-
if DVA,
I think she
DuVernay
did that.
agency did.
I think,
Oh,
I think she had
okay.
that. You know, when I got a great photo of George Foreman, George II, and George III. I interviewed all of his sons in one thing, but this is for TCA, so this is for Television Critics Association, and I don't even remember what it was for, but I'm like, what's the chance of getting all 3 Georges? 1, 2, 3. No, I actually had all 4 Georges.
And then another time, Home Depot had a scandal going. And so they had to kind of clear their name up. So I don't even know what the movie was. But whatever the movie was, they gave us free drills, those hand
Wow.
drills. I mean, those babies was nice.
Wow.
Brand new. And then I was told they quit giving us premiums because the IRS said either the studio going to have to pay tax or the press is going to have to pay tax, and
Yeah.
they didn't want to do that. Same thing they did with the Academy. You know,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys used to give those actors, I mean, real expensive gifts. And
I just remembered 2 more. For the movie Ali with Will Smith in it, I got the white boxing robe. Remember? Did you guys do Ali?
No.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, I got the white boxing robe, and I lost it in my storage. I'll never forget that. But it's like, oh, that was like great. It said Ali on the back. It was a white boxing robe. And then the Spider-Man. Remember the big Spider-Man bag? The first Spider-Man? It was like a big, huge tote bag. It was like you could put everything in it. I just remember that was like really good.
Do you remember the weird movie Kevin Spacey did called K-Pax?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They had
Jeffries.
these little crystals. And I still have that too. And it's like about that big, and it's a crystal, and it has K-Pax across the top front of it. It's really-
I remember that. Wow.
I have a couple that weren't necessarily weird, but I thought were kind of cool that come to mind. First was I remember when Paramount first released the Godfather films on DVD. They actually couriered over a cannoli from some bakery in Italy. Yeah, it was so bizarre, just out of nowhere. You know, and it was from Paramount to, to commemorate Godfather. And then one that I thought was just kind of cool was fairly recently was for Battle of the Sexes, and everybody got an autographed tennis ball with Billie Jean King's autograph.
Ooh,
on it.
Wow.
I didn't get that one.
Yeah,
I didn't do that one.
it was, because they gave us these big tennis bags. And then, of course, then people were wondering, well, we just assumed it was a bag, but you open it up, and there was, like, a display case with an authentic Billie Jean King, and it was in every single one of them.
Well, usually the better the swag, the worse the movie.
That was kind of true, actually. Yeah, yeah.
Well, did you do the Hunger Games too?
I only did the very last one.
We've done a million junkets together,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden, we did. Well, anyway, they made me a honorary citizen of District 2.
Oh.
And I got the little old silly plaque, and I still got the thing.
Was there anything attached? Like, did you have to do something for it, or?
No, it was
Yeah,
it was
kill a
just at
fellow junketer.
it was at the press junket. They just I think this was the very first one, because I had a 1-to-1 with what's her name, the Archer girl.
Jennifer Lawrence? Jennifer Lawrence?
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny. She said she didn't look forward to being a superstar.
No, I remember that too. And then what was the other one from the Twilight series?
Kristen Stewart.
She said the same thing. I just remember this. I'm like thinking, why did you even audition? I'm like thinking. She was so unhappy.
And when I did an interview for Taylor of Panama, an obscure movie that Pierce Brosnan was in, there was a young little boy who came in, and I said, "Are you ready to be a superstar?" And when you play Harry Potter, and
Ooh.
he was playing, Pierce Brosnan's son in that, and it was like, "Daniel, are you going to be a superstar?" And he's like, "I don't know if I'm ready for that."
Yeah. Wow. We got a couple minutes left. Mike, give you a website.
I don't have a website, but I will.
Social media links.
I looked for my Dachshund books on Amazon.com. I'm Mike and Dachshunds.
Mike.
TheMovieReport.com, and on Insta and Twitter, it's at TWOTREY2323.
And Rich.
Rych McCain Media Syndication, the Rych McCain Hollywood Notes.
Talk about, before we go, who was your friend that's got over 1 million views?
Yeah, I'm working with a country singer. He's a black country singer, and his name is Hollywood. He goes by the name, his real name is Ed Burks, but he goes by the name of Hollywood, and he's doing real big. The only thing that's hurting us right now is we can't perform. Now, he is doing the Gulf Coast Blues, Mississippi Gulf Coast Blues Festival, and I don't know how they're going to do that, because them damn storms keep coming through. They're blowing everything down. So, but he's doing that. But, yeah, he's doing real good. And hopefully when we can get him going, because we got a lot of promoters that's looking at him, but they're not doing any concerts right now. So, yeah, I'm going to always stay in that music thing.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things where, you have to always be promoting. It's always about the brands. It's always about the content. And it's about what we used to do at one point. So I want to thank everybody for coming, because we don't get a chance to see each other. I get a chance to see Mike, but I don't get a chance to see you guys. And it's kind of sad in a way. It's unfortunate, but you guys are always welcome to come on Movie Reviews and More. We were always friends. We still are, and there's not a lot enough of us left, which is unfortunate. The way the year has been, and people the last couple years have been passing away. It's very sad,
It's a dying art form. I mean, the Hollywood that I started out with no longer exists. And to me, I look at it as the end of the golden era of Hollywood. I mean, the big premieres and all of that stuff, it's not happening anymore.
You think it's going to come back?
I doubt it. With everything being online and whatnot, I remember Ray Charles, when Jamie Foxx won the Academy, that was one of the most incredible red carpet premieres, because everybody and his mama came, because they knew Jamie, when Ray died that year, everybody knew he was going to get the Oscar. So even Steven Seagal showed up. Everybody was like, what's he doing here?
Michael, do you think this is it?
I think, as far as the proliferation of things, I do think that there probably will still be, big premieres for big tentpole movies. It's just, part of that machine, and award shows. I don't think, a lot of the smaller stuff is gonna, pivot to, or they already have pivoted to virtual. But does anyone really care about those? I mean, virtual red carpets. When I get those invites, I just sort of, I'm like, bless your heart, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. I can't speak to anybody else, but.
Michael, that's it, you think?
I am hoping that there will still be a big movie theater somewhere that will play vintage movies like the Egyptian or the Chinese, and I'll go there if I can be there in the theater by myself.
No, we're not going. My partner Montague would always say, it's what people do in the dark when you're not monitoring them. That's when things go bad. People will take down their mask. The ventilation there is not good. We're just not at that point. Plus, we don't have any movies to see. And I hate to not go to support the independent films because we have to, because they deserve it just like those bigger tent films deserve it. But we shall see.
I've been loving the Blumhouse movies. The real schlocky. Blumhouse. There's been some real fun ones. The Lie and other things that. So they're churning out movies, and I'm still liking some of them. So.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Jason Blum in his trailer once on set.
How cool!
Yeah, he's cool people.
Yeah, Jason is pretty cool. Well, with that, this is Movie Reviews and More. It's like we, some of the gang getting together, who we haven't seen in a long time, and it definitely has been fun. It's for me, it's an honor to see you guys again, because I think about everybody all the time, and I think about the people that aren't there anymore. What they're doing, and it's kind of sad, but again, we hope for the best, and we will see what happens. Hey, I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. Talking to our friends, Mike Szymanski, the other Mike over here, who I haven't seen in a long time, Rich. Occasionally I call, see, what's happening with him. I like to see his old photos. And with that, I'm going to leave you. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours, because the world needs it. And we will see you next week.